Welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Ultimate 180 podcast. If you have ever felt exhausted, overwhelmed, or even trapped in your own life, and you wish that you could have a complete life makeover, then you are in the perfect place to learn how to pull an ultimate 180 and change your life beyond all expectations. I'm your host, Christina Walker, and today I'm going to highlight a major underlying source of stress and overwhelm that I call perceived societal pace. And then I'm going to give you an exercise that you can immediately embrace your pace. And the simple but powerful approach to your daily life can be absolutely life-changing, really. I mean, it's amazing. So it's simple, it's satisfying, and it works because it removes this deep layer of underlying stress in your life. And as an added benefit, it actually boosts your confidence in any situation. Win-win, right? So let's get started as we navigate change together, 1 degree at a time. Let's do this. Perceived societal pace. It's a lot to say. What is it? And what does it do to our brains? Well, perceived societal pace it's an underlying feeling of expectation of how much we should be able to accomplish over a period of time. So let me say that again. What it is, it's an underlying feeling of expectation of how much we should be able to do in our lives over a specific period of time. And I call it perceived societal pace because it is the perception of the pace in which we feel like we should be able to keep up with other people in society in every area of our life. And I am talking about every activity that we do, whether it's our career, our health, our kids, even socializing, and even our hobbies or lack thereof. And this really incorporates every single thing we do, which is why this is so powerful. And each of us has a unique perspective on what we feel like should be the norm. And the worst part is that we not only feel this underlying pressure to keep up, but somehow we're supposed to do all of these things and still be energetic, joyful, and balanced. Wow. That's pretty heavy. So, examples. Parenting. All of you who are parents out there, and I'm sure those of you who are not parents can probably see that this goes on. The juggling of all the things that you have to do, right? Have to do. And some of this is perceived. So we got to there could be three, especially if your kids are young, there could be 3 birthday parties on a weekend, and soccer and softball and volleyball and football and all the other things you have to do. And that's just for your kids. After school activities, play dates, homework, taking kids back and forth from school, right? And then you add on career. You're supposed to, or it feels like anyways, we're supposed to be thinking ahead, engaging, moving up, making more money, thinking about our next career move, pleasing our boss, like all the things that we have to do. And then you add in socialization. You're supposed to be able to socialize after all of that and have the energy to joyfully go to brunch and to maybe meet after work for drinks and all the things maybe that we actually want to do. Hobbies. And somehow we're supposed to do all of this at some sort of level to feel like we're normal, like we have a fulfilled life. And then this underlying stress is with us all the time. And this is when it really came to light for me. Is I was playing tennis one day and I was playing singles. So I was against one lady and I just kept losing. I mean, I kept getting to the point where I would almost get there and then I would just lose the set. And it was really frustrating for me. And I really deeply understood the fact that I probably outskilled this woman, but I don't know what was going on. So the next morning I luckily went to see my tennis coach and explained to her everything that happened. And I thought, what is going on? And she's like, okay, I know exactly what's going on. She goes, this happens whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even the pros. And I thought, okay, it's interesting. Keep going. She said, when you see a pro on TV and they take that tennis ball and they look at it, and before they serve, they bounce it, and they bounce it, and they all have their own rhythm, right? They bounce it, they bounce it. Maybe they bounce it 3 times, 5 times, 1 time, whatever it is. She said, what they're doing is they're setting their own pace. Setting their own pace. Okay. She said, what happened to you is that the woman you were playing with had a much faster pace about the game. She wanted to grab her ball when it was her turn, take it, hit it, and serve it. And then that's how the game goes. And then you started feeding in to match her pace because she was going, you were going. She was going, you were going. And it was matching her pace of the game. And she said, this is crazy. She said, you will never win if you are not playing at your pace. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? She said, you take that ball, and when it's your turn, when it's your serve, you take that ball and you bounce it as long as you need to, at the pace you need to get it in your head what's your pace. Because the way you play, you need a minute before every time that the game starts. You need to think about what your strategy is, and that's how you play. And so for you, it's very important to take the moment to do that for yourself. And she said, and here's a secret. She said, sometimes it's going to piss them off because it's not their pace, but it is your serve, and you get to set the tone of the pace when it's your serve. So you've got to learn to ignore them and go at your pace. And that is when it hit me. I'm like, holy crap. Like this is life, right? Because it is impossible to feel energetic, joyful, and balanced when we are trying to match a pace in life that's not our own. That is why we have this deep, deep underlying stress and of overwhelm and just feeling of like, man, I just can't keep up. It's because it might not match our own pace, whatever we think, right? So I said perceived, whatever we perceive as societal's pace. So once we actually start moving at our own personal pace, we embrace our pace. This actually, it's so freeing. It releases feelings of guilt. Can you imagine, right? Because you're supposed to be somewhere, and now you're like, yeah, guess what? No, I'm not going to do that. And I have zero guilt. How great does that feel? That would feel great, right? So guilt, stress, overwhelm, low self-esteem comes from this, exhaustion. And all of this can just melt away when we really start embracing our pace. And I was at a time in my life where it was kind of interesting. I had a young kid and I was, doing the birthday parties like I was talking about and doing all of that. And I started to feel, I kept seeing like, friends of mine, and they would be at all the birthday parties. They worked full time like me. They cooked dinner. Then somehow they had time to go out with their friends, for our friends, and they would go out on the weekends. They would go out in the evenings during the week. And I was just feeling exhausted. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they do all of this? And I would start to feel bad. Like, man, like I keep saying no, or I'd push myself to go. And then I would be exhausted the next day. Just think about sleep, right? Feeling exhausted the next day. Sleep alone. I am not one of those people that can get by on 4 hours of sleep. Some people are. Some people can just do 6. Not me. 8. I need 8 hours of good sleep. And, I can go a day or two where that varies. But if I'm not consistent with that, I'm a mess. And I know that about myself. So when I learned this secret from my tennis coach, and it really hit me how it incorporates in all of our life, like every aspect of our life, that's when I sat back and I thought, oh my God, okay, I I can't do this at this pace. And you know what? That's okay. It is totally okay that I discover my own pace and stay and embrace my pace. That is where my power is. My power lies in me being energetic and joyful and feeling balanced and great and creative only when I embrace my pace. When I start embracing other people's pace in life, I just can't do it. I can't even do it anymore. Now that I've been doing this for so long, embracing my own pace, it is just exhausting. That's why I'm not a great travel companion for some people because I don't like to schedule myself my entire vacation. Some people love it, and that's great. So knowing your own pace and also giving grace to others that may not be at your pace, or maybe when people say no, like they can't join you or they don't, maybe it's not they don't want to join you, or maybe they don't, maybe they said no because it's just not their pace. They've got too much going on. And for them, they just can't handle it. And that is okay. We all run at a different pace. I mean, if you look at your friends, sometimes we all have similar paces and sometimes we don't. And same within families. Some people just they gotta go, 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 go. And the partner is like, see ya. I just can't run at that pace. And that's okay. We don't need to beat anybody up about it. Think of our kids. Each kid runs at a different pace. And the more that we can help them understand that what their pace is, they'll feel more comfortable. They will be less stressed. We will be less stressed, right? If we help our kids with their pace. So, what can we do to make sure that we embrace our pace? The very first step is we need to notice. We need to start to notice all the versions that we have built up in our head of societal pace. What is this societal pace that we are trying to keep up to? What is it? And just start to notice when we start to feel overwhelmed or stressed or out of balance. What are the things? Is it that we work, we just can't work as much as some people? Maybe we can't work 12-hour days. Maybe that's just not us. That's okay. Then your career should be somewhere at your pace. It's totally fine. But that's the key, is because otherwise, if you're working at a company where they expect you to work long hours and you aren't a person that can pace like that, it's not gonna be a great relationship for either of you. And I know people that are the opposite. Like they don't want to stop working. They just want to keep going because they're so excited about what they're doing. And I've seen it where the company doesn't match that pace. They're like, no, you should go home. And it doesn't match. And that is just definitely a source of an underlying stress when our paces don't match. So think about, just notice it in every aspect of our life. Just start thinking about it. Just start noticing, how does this work in my socialization, right? Well, like I said, some of my friends, they are constantly going out and seeing each other. If I see them once a month, I mean, that might be all I can do. It might be all I can fit into my schedule, because now that I've learned the way that I need to pace my life, I just don't have it. The way that I continue to be here and show up for you with this much energy and in the excitement, and because this is what I like to do, the only way I can do that is if I pace out the rest of my life. I've got to make sure I keep myself energetic and keep myself joyful and happy. And the only way I can do that is there's a lot of no's going on. And it's not, again, not because we don't want to do something. And it's not because we can't do them. I think that's the big thing right there. Is sometimes we're like, well, that space is available on my calendar, so I guess we can, but that doesn't mean we should, right? Sometimes we got to ask ourselves, I can, but should I for me? So noticing our version, what's in our head of societal pace for us, what we're trying to keep up with. And then two is to start noticing and defining our own pace. What is that pace? What's going to be good for us in every aspect? And the way we do it, number three, as you know, I talked about this before, my little MDCs, micro decisions, little teeny tiny actions, incorporate little small changes to your pace at a time. So this doesn't have to be, okay, everybody, that's it. I'm now at a new pace, right? That's not exactly how it works either. That's exhausting when you make that much change. You don't need to make that much change. And also, you're impacting other people too, right? So your job or your company or your spouse or your kids or, right? You're impacting a lot of things. So start small. Start with sleep. It's okay that you sleep in on the weekend, or it's okay if you don't like to sleep. Then embrace it. Don't lay there in bed. If you can't sleep, if every night between 1 and 3 you cannot sleep, then get out of that bed and go read or do something, and then till you're tired again, and then go back to bed. It's okay. But do that for you. Set your pace, little tiny bits at a time. So I hope today that when you start to think about this and you start incorporating these changes in your life, I hope that you start to feel this huge release of guilt, stress, overwhelm. And I hope that this starts to build your confidence when you say no. Or you say, you know what? I can do more. It's just going to build your confidence in every single aspect of your life. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like to any more information on how to incorporate these changes into your Ultimate 180 experience, come by and join me on my website, www.ultimate180.com. All my podcasts are on there, and you can also catch my podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your shows.